Considering it's CBDCs, something we, again, seem to be sleepwalking into potentially, what is at stake here?
Yeah. I mean, at stake is, in CBDCs specifically, is the elimination of the last sphere of financial autonomy that remains, and that is physical cash. Although the Federal Reserve and the ECB have, issued public statements to the effect that they're not.
I carry physical cash always.
Right.
Do you know
That's
British
not much
pound
good
notes?
here, though.
Yes.
Yeah. I carry these.
Nice.
These will be replaced with the king soon.
Indeed.
You should get one. Anyway, sorry, I interrupted you there.
But yeah, I mean, that's what's at stake, is the last non-KYC'd form of financial transacting is physical cash. And every CBDC design model has posited that full identification will be necessary to both receive CBDCs directly from the central bank and then to transact with them later on.
Even without CBDCs, though, do you not see the elimination of physical cash?
I think governments, one way or another, are going to work to eliminate it.
I'll give you another example of why you can sleepwalk into this as well. Do you know I own a football club?
Yes.
So I've actually had to start learning about running a part of a business's cash base. We have a bar and food, and people come, and they can pay with Bitcoin, they can pay with a card, or pay with cash.
Yeah.
Cash is a pain.
Yeah.
It's a real pain. You have to have a float. The float has to have the right amount of coins to give change.
Right.
Then you have to count it and back. It's a pain. Everything that's paid on by the card is easy.
Right.
I can see why you sleepwalk into removing cash because it's easy.
Exactly.
People who don't think about money, don't think about surveillance, don't think about KYC, don't think about any of this because they've not been thrown down this Bitcoin rabbit hole, which is the vast majority of people.
Yeah.
I can see how you sleepwalk into getting rid of cash.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, this is how the internet has come to be owned by a small group of megacorps, is the convenience and ease of navigating TCP/IP and HTTPS through a platform that is very easy to use. It's beautiful. That you know exactly where to click to do what. That is how we've captured the world. The early internet was not this way. I mean, the early internet was peer-to-peer. It was basically only nerds using it. They knew how to use this in a self-sovereign way. But as adoption scaled, and then as the web commercialized and became a new platform for commerce, it had to get radically simpler so that anybody, regardless of their technical knowledge, could use the infrastructure. And so this is the challenge with Bitcoin, and people have said this over and over again. It has to become super easy to use in order to compete with these more centralized forms of money.
What is the state of development of CBDCs within Russia, and where is America currently at with this?
Russia has made announcements about it. I don't know where they are.
Sorry, I meant China.
In China, they've been piloting CBDCs in a number of cities. And interestingly, they're running into the same challenge where people are like, well, money's already digital. Like, I already use WePay and Alipay for everything. So why do I have to use this CBDC now?
And they're completely surveilled through Alipay and WePay.
Right,
anyway.
exactly. And so this is part of my argument in the paper too, is the digital dollar banking system is already fully surveilled. So why do you need actual digital cash that's a liability of the central bank? Why can't the commercial money that's already fully surveilled achieve this purpose? But so China's, piloting it. Interestingly, they're not the furthest along. A number of countries have already issued CBDCs, smaller countries.
Who particularly?
The Bahamas,
Okay.
Eastern Caribbean, Nigeria, I believe. They're named in the paper. It's unclear to what extent they're actually being used.
Okay.
The U.S. is currently in the stage of moving from the research stage to the implementation stage. So it's a very tricky stage to be in. The Federal Reserve, the Treasury, the White House Office for Science and Technology Policy have all released reports about CBDCs. Not not recommending them explicitly, but also not recommending them, and saying, if you were to design a CBDC, here are the requirements that it would have to meet. So in effect, they've created a blueprint for a CBDC, all the while saying, oh, no, don't worry, we're not planning to actually do this. We would need a law from Congress. So at least that part of the political process still functions. But Congress is on it. So there was something called the e-cash bill that was introduced a few months ago by a group of senators, disappointingly, including some members of the squad, to introduce, to require the U.S.
The squad?
Yeah, the progressive, young female congressional representation.
What's the squad?
AOC.
Yeah, no, but what's the name? Is that like a known name?
Yeah, that's the name for like her kind of coterie of, not just her, but like a group of young, progressive, democratic, female women of color who were elected to Congress over the past few years.
This is one of the reasons, recently we've been making a hard push on the show to have more progressive leftist Bitcoiners on the show. We've had Jason Meyer, who's writing a book. We've had Logan Bollinger. Who else we had? We've had loads, haven't we?
Mark Goodwin, I guess. But that was a little different show.
But the point being is that Bitcoin has mass awareness. Bitcoin is growing. It's certainly been adopted more by the conservatives and the right, and then the progressives. And I've always seen America as the front line for Bitcoin.
Right.
If America accepts Bitcoin, if America uses Bitcoin, a lot of the world will follow.
Yeah.
If America rejects Bitcoin, there's a big incentive for other states to reject it. So it's really super important for me. Rather than focus on what you hate people on the left for, or think libs of TikTok represents every progressive in America, which it clearly doesn't, which is a small minority of morons, like you get a small minority of morons on the right. We should accept Bitcoin is coming.
Yep.
We should accept progressives are going to see Bitcoin, and we should be explaining to them why they should care about it. This is why we were so keen to have Jason on, because Jason is writing the book, A Progressive Case for Bitcoin. We should embrace this. This is good for Bitcoin. This is good for everyone else, which means that you have, rather than, what tends to happen when you see someone like AOC, well, no, specifically Elizabeth Warren tweet something about Bitcoin, which is fundamentally wrong. You see all these progressives underneath agreeing with her and saying the same. I think we have to do a much better job of actually educating these people about Bitcoin, which I'm a hypocrite, not say have fun being poor, not calling them libtards, actually introducing them and say, no, look at how Bitcoin can improve wealth equality. Look how Bitcoin can create more inclusion. Look how Bitcoin can help mitigate against climate change. We should be doing that work.
Right.
Because of the squad.
Right. No, I 100% agree. In fact, I had invited them to the Texas blockchain summit.
Are they coming?
Maybe no, but maybe one of these years they'll decide to. I think the challenge is that the progressive left has embraced a kind of redistributionist politics that incentivizes them at this moment to welcome CBDCs, because what they want is direct Fed accounts for every American.
They want to press a button.
Yeah, they want to be
UBI.
able to press a button and have the stimulus just pop up in your account. No checks, no things getting lost, no things getting stolen. Like, everything can just be seamlessly redistributed that way.
Conditions on what you can spend the money on.
But this is the problem, because if you create this structure, money giveth, you've also now created the rails for taketh away. So now you can put, a negative 2% interest rate on that Fed account and say, you
better
just
spend that.
Right. You better spend that before it runs out. And that negative 2%, can be deducted at any time interval. It could be daily, it could be weekly, it could be monthly, it could be yearly, whatever.
You can't buy beer with that.
You can't buy beer with it. You can't shop at this store because, they're flagged as a terrorist risk. You can't, go here because the owner of this is like under investigation for X, Y, or Z. And so suddenly you've created, in effect, a company store out of the entire American economy.
Yes. What happens to, sorry, I was about to say something, but what happens to the likes of Visa or MasterCard in these scenarios of the CBDC?
they will become most likely, if a CBDC gets rolled out in the United States, it will use the commercial banking sector and the established credit card companies as payment rails.
Because one of the things that scares me, or not scares me, but I don't like about the CBDC, and I think other people haven't thought about, is it's a good thing that the financial system is fractured. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Sometimes the banks go down. Sometimes American Express goes down. Like if I'm going to pay and MasterCard's gone down,
right,
I can go to cash.
Right.
Or I can go to my Amex.
Exactly.
I've got all these. I've got Bitcoin, physical cash,
right,
MasterCard, Visa, American
right.
Express. Anything can break, and I've got something else I can use. If we have one blockchain controlling money, which by the way, I'm not even sure they can technically do this.
Yeah.
And it's built on Solana. We know like every other week it's gonna stop working, and then the whole financial system collapses.
Right. No, exactly. And this was one of the examples I gave with the Eastern Caribbean's implementation of their CBDC, Dcash, where it just went down for a few months, either earlier this year or 2021. And it was because, they used a Hyperledger Fabric private blockchain implementation, and just whoever's job it was didn't update the SSL certificate.
I mean, it's so fucking stupid, isn't it?
For 2 months, the entire CBDC was unusable.
But it's so stupid.
And this is why governments are likely, what they're going to do is they're going to the contract out to the private sector. So the Bank of International Settlements, BIS, has been partnering with the Swiss National Bank and a company called SIX, which is a banking consortium that has built a private blockchain ledger to pilot CBDCs. Now, they're very quick to say, this doesn't mean Switzerland is rolling out a CBDC. Don't get any weird ideas. But they have demos, they have presentations, they've written papers about it. And so, what's happening in the US is, Amazon is positioning their blockchain as a service offering, particularly to the ECB with major global software vendors positioning themselves as the implementers of this. And so what's going to happen is private software companies are likely going to deliver and maintain the currency of the realm. How does that really sit from a constitutionality, political theory standpoint? I don't know.
Danny, did I ever tell you about when MasterCard got in touch to sponsor the podcast?
I think you did, but you should tell the story.
Yeah, so we had MasterCard reach out to sponsor the podcast.
Huh.
I was like, oh, that's interesting. Well, It's the old world, but I mean, I use MasterCard. I mean, what is it you want to promote? And they had a couple of things, and they said, and we want to advertise that we are ready for CBDCs. And I was like, are you aware my show is a Bitcoin show? Do you know what we think of CBDCs?
Yeah.
So that never really went ahead.
Yeah.
Okay, so we all understand the threat.
Yeah.
What can we do about this? Like, what are you doing? What do you want people
Just going back to that, does that not highlight how even MasterCard aren't aware of what this might be?
I just don't think most people consider it.
Right.
Because I think people are so conditioned now to being surveilled financially.
Yeah.
I expect every single transaction I do through my bank account to be surveilled.
100%.
I expect the bank to give that information willingly. I know the bank look at it themselves because I lost a bank account because they phoned me up to ask me about my payments. I told them to fuck off. It's none of their business. I had my account closed down. So I know they're doing it. I know the government is. I know to have privacy, we have to take it into our own hands. I'm not particularly great at it, but that's why I always have cash. Because there's certain things I just don't want to be tracked for. But I think they sleepwalk into it. I think someone like MasterCard think, oh, this is a new innovation that's coming. This is great for people. Oh, this is blockchain. Ooh.
Yeah.
I think they sleepwalk into it. So people are listening to this. Kind of, what message do you want to get across to them? And are you trying to create action? Do you want action from people? Do you want support? What is it what do you want to get out of this?
Yeah, absolutely.
How can we help?
The only way that tyranny is prevented is a strong civil society that the state actually becomes concerned about. And so what we need,
institutions.
Yes, what we need is massive pushback from the American people against CBDCs. That means writing, calling your congressman, your senator, any media outlet that is willing to publish letters to the editor or op-eds, talking about it on your blogs, on social media. There has to be a political price for implementing this policy in the United States. And this is, one of the things that, I write about in the beginning of the paper is this disturbing tendency that we've seen among the American electorate to continue voting for people who, further the surveillance state, as long as, we like one of their policies on something else or their identity, who they are. The problem with that is that if everyone we're voting for continues consolidating state power, eventually there will be nothing to vote for.